Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for you today. And this is going to be a continuation of my quick update series. This is one where I just focus on the might DPSing side of it, as well as include some footage at the end of the video. Same along the lines of my quantum video last week if you saw that. Now we're on to munitions. So the reason why I'm doing this series, in addition to my in-depth, so the in-depth ones are still continuing. Earth will be out very soon, Celestial will be right after that, and then I'll go on to either Ice or Atomic. This is on the EU server, so I'm a DPS here. I've got DPS artifacts now, so it allows me some flexibility to be able to switch multiple power sets. I think after this I'm going mental, just so I can play around. You know, I don't have to be the power set long. I can switch multiple times because I'm just showing the DPS side. So we're going to get into that here. So in terms of the DPS spec, it's going to be exactly the same as everything else. So in terms of stat points, you're taking super powered, critical attack chance, critical attack damage, maxing everything in might and power. And then iconic powers, you'll need heat vision, you'll need robot psychic, you'll need new venom boost. Ignore super strength. I still haven't changed my spec since that video I did about the faster plane farming mission. So ignore that. That's just me wasting a skill point right now. In terms of, we'll go to super speed. In terms of super speed, for the melee spec, you will need Dervish. You don't necessarily need this. I take the power recoveries just because I'm always running with a claw troll, so power can be suspect at some point. It's not suspect, but there's going to be times where if you're a little bit burst damage, just because mini nuke is such a high power cost, you've got with Dervish in there, so it's I take that just for a little bit extra power, but it's not unnecessary whatsoever. So if you need to save some skill points, don't worry about taking it. The only power you require is Dervish for at least the melee spec. And to weapons, once again, just one-handed. I like one-handed because it's a fast lunge. Because this is a melee spec, you want to be able to lunge the next group of adds very quickly. So like one-handed shield, stuff like that. You just don't want like hand blaster or rifle, stuff like that. So the rest of the skill points you're dumping into health. This is geared towards an elite spec. That's why I like health. Munitions is too many channels anyway. You're not going to be really tapping weapons or anything in between. So I'd rather go for the extra survivability with health. In terms of mods and gear, weapons going to always blast adapter. Head mod is going to vary. So it could be mounted turret, could be big gun, could be new venom boost, depending on the situation. Most of the time, I'm always running mounted turret, especially if there's a supercharged spammer in the group, because it is an 18-second cooldown. I can show you quickly here on the loadout. So because it's 18 seconds and not 30 seconds like other supercharges, with a supercharged spammer, you get to use it much more frequently, and it is decent burst damage. So basically, use it as a counter against like nature, or you'll still lose out to like rage and earth just because they'll be able to spam berserk and tomb, but at least you can kind of keep up. Because if you're using neo venom, all neo venom's going to do is boost your own damage. But if the adds die, but from the other DPS using their burst damages or burst supercharges, neo venom's kind of pointless. So at least with mounted turret, drop a spot drop, you can get some nice like a quick like 1.3, 1.5 mil damage on a set of like elite adds. I use big gun on single target fights. If you don't have a spammer in the group, or you don't, not even a spammer, but if you don't have like a healer using a Gemini, like if no one in the group is using Gemini, I wouldn't use big gun. Then I'd use neo venom for single target. But like say for Grail, it's very helpful because A, you can nuke the adds, and B, you can hit Grail for a few million damage. So it's very handy from that point of view. The thing with big gun is it's still, if it doesn't crit, it's so lackluster. Like you'll hit for like 200, 400k damage, which is nothing for 100%. If it crits, it's amazing, but if it doesn't, it's really, really subpar. So it's just one of those things where I'm probably visualizing it critting less, and it probably just crits the same, but the same thing. It all depends on the situation, if it's going to be turret, big gun, or a new venom boost. Neck mod's always going to be escalating might. Back mod, accelerated mini nuke. Chest mod, I prefer running extended supercharge because I'm not running scrap of soul cloak in any of these builds, and so it's going to be more damage in the long run than penetrating strikes. But if you want to go for like a pure damage build, then penetrating strikes will be the one to go. Leg mod, nothing matters. Feet mod, dashing combos, you need that for Dervish. And then hands be max damage. In terms of the utility bouts, I don't have the, well, I do have the summer event trick in here, but I find that people are moving at such a high pace. Where is it here somewhere? Yeah. So I feel like the ads are moving at such a high pace, especially in like this new Fractured Godsphere Elite, and there's such a gap between them that you can't really get pure melee damage out of it. So I'd much rather run like a Dark Contract Bat, which will just be kind of sitting always in the background, and I don't have to worry about it. Other than that, orbital, supply drops, nothing special. In terms of artifacts, there are 4 main artifacts you're going to need for munitions. You're going to need Transstrat Solar, which is basically the meta setup right now for Might, and then Grim. Grim is very handy in the melee spec, just because you don't have to run Shrapnel or Flak. You can, so you don't necessarily have to. You can get away without running it. It's just that if you're running Flak or Shrapnel, you might as well be a range rotation. Like Explosion is the only melee power technically. Explosion is very, very powerful, but at the same time, if you're running like Flak or Shrapnel, then you might as well be ranged anyway and just drop Explosion. Or you can still run it and then just kind of like weave in and out. But that's my preference. So it's not required. Like if you don't have a Grim at 160, don't worry about it. Don't level it up just because you want to be good at munitions melee. Munitions range is just as good. And then you're typically Transstrat Solar. So that's the most important artifacts that are good for single target and ranged are going to be Transstrat Solar. If you want to get a little bit higher extra melee damage, then run Grim. So that's your 4 choices with the artifacts there. But that's how I set it up. I have Grim for melee because melee, I don't need the strategist card because I'm running mostly burst. Explosions, burst damage. Mininuka's burst damage. Dervish is pretty much burst damage because you're only doing 3 ticks and clipping it. Chain gun is really your only burst damage per se. So there's not many opportunities for it to proc on strat. We can touch on Augments. Augments is obviously going to be Might. Platinum's there. And then the Origin Augments here. And then obviously new generated mods you would have Might as well. So that's the munition specs. Now let's touch on the actual melee loadout. Okay, so in terms of a melee loadout for munitions, going to be using Dervish, Chain Gun, Explosion, Mini Nuke, Robot Psychic, and mounted turret in most situations. So Dervish is basically, you start with Dervish basically to get Grim out, and then Grim will apply the PI for time for Chain Gun, Explosion, and Mini Nuke. But you're not holding the entire duration of Dervish. So I can kind of give like a brief example here and with dashing combo. So basically with Dervish, technically you can tap cancel, but then the precision take is going to be a lot less than actually dashing combo. So dashing combos, as I said in the foot mod. So tap melee to perform a dash attack combo following Vortex Trap, Whirling Dervish, etc. So what that looks like is I'm in Dervish, tap melee, and I basically jump forward like that. And that is an AoE hit. So I can kind of show you here. So Dervish, and you saw that 3 hit there. And then by the time Dervish is out, Grim's hit because it's the multi-hit, so I'm already getting the AoE PI. One thing to remember with Chain Gun is you are mobile with it, and with you being close with Dervish, if you use Chain Gun C, I'm only going to hit those 2 targets. So really you just have to make sure that you're positioning yourself behind the targets, you're hitting all of them. Explosion has a pretty short range. It's pretty much 1 square, which is what you think is like a melee power. But, I mean, it's 120k damage just with 1 power. And I've seen it crit for 100k on each target. I might actually include a screenshot of that just in case. It's pretty funny. And then Mini Nuke is Mini Nuke. But the nice thing about Mini Nuke is with the animation being a bit long, I can go quicker in a Dervish, so Mini Nuke hits at the same time. So as it's hitting, so you're getting Dervish and Mini Nuke off at the same time. So there's going to be times where you're block countered by Mini Nuke. It's not a big deal. And Robot Psychic is out there for basically just passive damage as a dot, because that's all you require. So that is the melee loadout, the quick and dirty, and let me show you the rotation. Okay, you guys get the gist there. It's an awkward rotation to parse because of the positioning on it. So I do my best with this barring targets blocked in there. A couple times mini nuke, I don't even think hit them. Same thing, chain gun with them being that close. Like it's just parsing is not as realistic as what you're going to find in a raid. A raid's not going to be any issue because you got the tank right there. But as you can see, first rotation is going to be low just because you don't have the Grim damage, you don't have Psychic, Burning Dot, stuff like that. But jumps up right away to 1.1 mil, 1 mil. There's a couple of other parses that got lower because I'm missing hits. Same thing, 83.74. Jump back up to almost a million right there. So you'll see some fluctuations, but at the same time, it's very, very easily capable of well over 1 million damage in melee range. And that's not even including like augment buffs and content. That's not including a nitro, a mega, claw buff, tetra buff. Like it is a very, very heavy hitting melee rotation. And as you can see, I'll put the screenshot up too with those the explosion hitting 100k in each target. So one explosion, all I did was hit 3 explosion, boom, 300k damage done on 3 ads with the crits. So it's Munitions is very, very capable with melee. Can it keep up with like the natures and everything else? It certainly can. You certainly can keep up with like the natures and the rage. The only thing is when you have a supercharged spammer in the group, you lose. You tend to lose. So like if an Earth DPS is like spamming Jackhammer but can hit like Entomb every 30 seconds, and Entomb does way more damage than Mounted Turret will or Neovenom. Rage, you've got Berserk. But it's if you don't have a supercharged spammer, I've kept up with natures and rages and earths and everything very capable in elite footage, or sorry, in elite runs. It just kind of, Munitions kind of falls back slightly when you have a supercharged spammer, just because there's other better supercharges than, like big guns, you can't reliably spam it, even with a supercharged spammer, with it being a 60-second cooldown and 10,000 supercharge compared to like an Entomb or a Berserk, stuff like that. But as you can see there, very capable for melee. I really like it. The only difference is, like I said, you run the Grim for an extra pet damage for passive, and send the PI for burning. But if you don't want to run the Grim, just set it flak. That's the only difference. So if you're like, what if I do? What if I'm not Dervish? Or what if I do if I'm not like I'm super beater aggro? Once again, the series isn't designed for that, but easy flak. Flak will set up your PI. You run strategist cards, so you get the extra ticks for that. So drop the Grim, put Strat on, put Flak Cannon on, and there we go. Is it going to hit like 1.5 mil, 1.2, 1.6 mil, or whatever? No, it's not without Dervish's damage. But that's the difference between like a rotation that does good damage and a meta rotation that does the best damage. So that's the difference there. So there we have it. Okay, for a single target loadout, it's the exact same spec. The loadout's going to be amplified heat vision, multi-net launcher, chain gun, small package, robot psychic, and then depending on the situation, again, could be big gun, could be Neovenom boost, could be mounted turret if there's a little bit of ads. Like in regular raids, I would run mounted turret just because things are going to die so quick anyway. Artifacts, the only change is now I'm running strategist card because of the dots. I've got heat vision dots. I've got the chain gun dots. I got burning dots. Small packages, multi hits. Multi launcher can be multi hits depending on what combo you're using. So strategist card works much better in this situation than Grim will. And because I have burning applied from heat vision anyway, I don't have to worry about the PI setup. So the only thing to note is with the actual multi-net launcher, it has 2 abilities here. So multi-net pull. So tap range is the net retractor. Hold range is multi-net. So let me show you what those actually mean and what they mean actually to Munitions. Okay, so the power multi-net has a lot of versatility to it with these extra powers. So if I just hit it once, I get the actual might damage crit. It is going to be AoE. So if I tap range, I just got a second hit. This is purely single target. So the reason why it's pulled is because I have high dom. That won't happen in a raid. It's the same thing. So multi-net, that's AoE. Multi-net single, you got a single hit there. So it's great for single target focused ads, especially with heat vision, as well as if there's a boss in, like, say, example for Grail, if there's a boss with a whole bunch of ads and you want to focus on single target, you can just keep tapping range and you're getting that single target high crit damage on Grail the entire time. You just a little bit AoE single target. But say all the ads spawn with Grail, then you basically hold range. So tap, hold range. Now it becomes AoE. It's not purely AoE, it only does 4 targets, but the damage does split very nicely for 4 targets. So not only do you get the first hit AoE, but then you get the second hit. I mean, kind of show you on the 8 targets just how it's 4 targets, but the damage is still nice even though it's 4. So the first one, that's going to be 8 targets. It's just the pull that's 4. So it's only going to hit 4 targets, not all 8. So very versatile power, very nice damage, and then you can easily do it on the fly. So the reason why it's a longer animation, you don't have to wait for that. You can go straight back into it. You can into your next power. So basically, tap range, it hit, but you don't even see that come out. So if I do same thing, if I do the hold range, it pulls them obviously, no animation. So you can clip it instantly. So it's basically just completely bonus damage for AoE or bonus damage for single target with munitions. And that's what makes that power so versatile. So let's get into it and show you the actual rotation. Okay, so you get the gist of it there. The reason why I went a bit longer with the parsing is because the rotation does change. Where did it start here? Either way. The rotation does change when you get to 35%. The reason why small package is on there is small package is a damage loss, pretty much damage loss, if it's above 35%. You're much better off using heat vision, shrapnel, or sorry, not shrapnel, multi-net, and the minigun, multi-net, heat vision, and kind of rotate between those 3 powers because it's much faster, much quicker. You can be doing AoE the exact same time where small package won't be AoE, so that's much more beneficial to rotate with those 3 powers. And then once the target gets below 35, just do 1, 3, 3, 4. It's making a small package. Then small package will have some nice crits, and it's much higher damage at that point. So like the end of the Grail fight, the end of the Zeus fight, like the second phase, that's where it's more beneficial, except when ads come out, then you can go back into the first 3 and do the AoE. So you can see that the first rotation, just those 3 powers, is going to be mid-50s. You can get up to 60 with the crits. That's 42%. That's not too bad at all. You can also be a bit weaker if nothing crits, like 25. That's I think that was my lowest one. The first parse is low just because there's no burning dots. There's heat vision dots aren't ticking. So that's probably my lowest parse, or depending on what the crit chances are with the strategist card. And then obviously once it's below 35, I'm getting like mid-50s to high 50s there. And that's with the small package finisher procs. So that's where it is there. So technically, like if you wanted to drop a power for like a shield for survivability or shrapnel for supercharged generation, some kind of power, like if you really didn't want to run a small package, you could do that. You're just as powerful with those 3 powers alternating on single target, especially with like a claw troll with the crit percentages higher, because this is all burst damage. So you get higher might, higher crits. So that's why if you've seen some of my footage in my previous elite raids with a full buff troll, I'm hitting like 60, 70, 80k parses with this rotation, no problem, just with those 3 powers. And I'm sure most of you Munitions TPOs out there are seeing it because Munitions is quite popular right now. So the bread and butter of this single target rotation is those 3 powers, which is exactly what I showed in my previous Munitions guide from a year ago. Now just mixing a small package when you're below 35. That's all it is. Okay, so on to the range rotation. Once again, it's going to be the same artifacts, solar, transformation, and strategist. While Munitions technically doesn't have dots, it's just burst damage, we are getting some dot damage from flat cannon. We are getting some multi-burst from chain gun. We're getting multi-burst from railguns. And with strategist card just being so good on multiple targets, that it is quite beneficial. So this is the one where Munitions is really, I guess with the supercharged thing, it can be mounted turret, big gun, whatever your choice was. New Venom Boost also works very well in this rotation. So we'll start there for now. The nice thing about Munitions is that it's probably, right now, currently, it's probably the 3rd best ranged power set in terms of range damage, maximum viability being safe and everything. You've got nature being first, electric being second, and then I would put Munitions 3rd. So Munitions is very, very nice for elite because you got max damage at max range, it's got good single target, and it's got melee options as well. So it's a very versatile power set. While it may not be the most interesting power set to play because it's really the same kind of powers, it is very viable. And if you're looking for a power that's safe to do good damage with at range, then there's kind of no option besides Munitions, that's for sure. Electric just has a way better supercharge and a lot better dots, but Munitions substitutes the dots for burst. So we got flat cannon setting up the AoE. You can technically run shrapnel. Shrapnel is a 6-second cooldown. It's a supercharge generator. It does the same thing. It is a lot less damage than flat cannon, and flat cannon's a 1-second cooldown. So I like this because if there's an ad set that dies quickly and you need to move to another ad set, you need to stop that burning because burning has to be on for chain gun and mini nuke. So flat cannon, it's really easy, it's mobile, it's quick, high damage, that you can reapply the PI anytime you need to. So same thing in alert. If you don't want to melee DPS in the alert, same thing. The alert ads are going to die pretty quick. Flat cannon, boom, PI setup, chain gun, and mini nuke is basically all you need. And then basically rail guns you can basically use because of the damage in rail guns is so high. It's farther than gray range. So railguns will either clean up the ads you're fighting, or you can use railguns to target the next set of ads behind that and keep hitting them, because railguns will go through targets. So it's just very beneficial. You have the PI set up, and with flat cannons being 1-second cooldown, it's just very quick and easy. That's why I prefer it. But if you prefer farming supercharge, say if you want to use big gun on range and you want to use a supercharge, you can technically use shrapnel, but I still prefer flak. The other thing is that technically, if you want the highest possible damage you can have, which I'll show in the rotation as well, just so you can see it on the parsers, heat vision right now, because of the bug, well, not really bug, but I mean, due to the brokenness of the non-splitting damage on Soul Amplifier, Heat Vision will be required on pretty much 99.9% of all ranged loadouts. So yes, Heat Vision does do the highest damage. It does set up burning, so it applies the same PI. You will get more some better dots with it for strategist proc. So if you want the highest possible damage you can do as ranged munitions, then yes, it's going to be Heat Vision. Flak's not that far behind. I prefer it because you're more mobile and you're not just stuck in the same spot for a while like Heat Vision, where if a tank's pulling ads out of range, you can chase them with Flak Cannon. But if you officially want the highest damage, then yes, it's going to be Heat Vision. So I know people are going to comments be like, oh, you've got Heat Vision in every loadout, you got Robust Psychic in every loadout, you got Dervish in every melee loadout. I mean, that's the point of this series, this quick series, is show you the best rotations. I'm not trying to show you rotations that'll work with Acro or work with Flight. This mini series is basically designed to show you what's the best quantum rotations right now, what's the best munitions rotations, what's the best mental rotations, stuff like that. So that's what this little mini series is. That's why I'm not doing like the support roles or doing precision. This is just what you should be running right now if you want to maximize. But like I said, if you don't want to run Heat Vision, same thing, you can run Flak. It is less damage, but it's not that far behind. So I'll show you both in the rotation here. Okay, so you saw both rotations there. The main range one that I use with Flak Cannon, pretty much always over a mil. The first one's going to be lower, obviously, because no dots are ticking, no strategies procs are ticking. It dropped down to 89 there. That was my fault. You saw that I just messed up the rotation. Thought I was hitting Muni Nuke, but I was actually hitting Chain Gun again still. My mic's in front of me, so I can't always just see my loadout. And then with Heat Vision on, it's not that much higher. Basically, your low millions with Flak Cannon, and then with Heat Vision, you're always like 1.1, 1.2 mil. So it is still like a 200,000 increase, but it's not like a night and day increase. So it just depends. Like I said, if you want the maximum damage, you're going to use Heat Vision, and then if you want like a bit more mobile with damage like slightly less, it's going to be with Flak Cannon. So there's your ranged options there with munitions.